tell us about first of all, the conditions that we have in Washington, so you can put us in context in relation to New York too. And what is your experience with rootstocks?
Thanks, Bernadita. And great talk, Terrence. And your data didn't show very much about 969, but I've seen some more recent trials where 969 looks like it's going to be a good bitter pit controlling rootstock. In Washington, the climate differences is elevation driven, not latitude driven. And so Jason Matson finally drove into my elderly brain that there's almost 6 weeks of growing season difference between Mattawa and the 2,200 foot elevation of Sela. And so he was using Geneva 890 and a lot of his cold sites to increase the vigor that he could get and hopefully obtain that canopy volume. So in all of our rootstock trials that I've looked at in the West, that the precocious rootstocks with the biggest canopy always won the yield battle. And so getting that canopy grown quickly and then have the precocity to put fruit on that canopy was a very important, what drove a lot of the statistics. And so when we sorted yield to trunk cross-sectional area, rootstocks like 890, 52, 57, even G30 wound up being some of the most yield efficient rootstocks in the trials. Bud 9, only a couple of my trials did we change the spacing. And we have a Honeycrisp trial in Oroville where we planted Bud 9 at 18 inches, and it actually filled the space and looks like a reasonably productive block. But over the many, many years of going to IFTA and listening to Allison DeMarie and Terrence talk about the capital investment, and if we have to double the tree count for Bud 9 to get the consistent yields and good productivity, especially in our replant sites in Central Washington, it's going to be a really big challenge. I've become a bit of an advocate for considering Geneva 890 for Honeycrisp because it's so reliable across soil textures, water sources. We actually need to look at growing Honeycrisp a little differently on 890. We need crop in the second leaf on vigorous trees in order to suppress the vigor in the bottom of the tree. If we take the crop completely off, there's a lot of wood that gets too big too quickly. But if we crop it, we can control it. So it's a very interesting opportunity to perhaps lower our capital costs, but significantly lower our labor costs at establishing a highly productive Honeycrisp block. A number of the other rootstocks, the 214, 41 are very competitive with M9, and the fire blight resistance makes it very difficult to see where any of the mulling stocks have a place in modern orchard systems. The other factor that I try to highlight is the woolly aphid resistance that are present in some of the rootstocks. Unfortunately, G11 and G935, neither one are woolly aphid resistant. And so that kind of narrows our, or at least my spectrum of best choices for rootstocks in Washington.